and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Estate World Podcast. All right, we're live. This is Scott Pekarik with the Real Estate World Podcast, reporting here live on Facebook in the bunker in the heart of flyover country in lovely Minnetonka, Minnesota. To all the trolls out there, I am ready, willing, and waiting for your arrival. We could not celebrate Easter properly without our best friends, the trolls, involved and with us. So today, we're not going to talk only about trolls. Today, we're going to talk about, keep deep diving into this CARES Act that has been captivating the hearts and minds of so many small business owners in the United States of America here the past few weeks. And I continue to find myself to be a bit confused by this program. Who's going to get the money? When is it going to run out? You know, what the process is. I want to read a few stats. Okay, so for those of you that haven't been watching or listening to the show, we do we try to go live on Facebook on the podcast daily around noon, with some deviations. Days when the technology doesn't work, we simply record on Zoom and then we try to upload the video later, which makes me wonder: are we being monitored by China because of the security loophole in Zoom? Is Yoda being hacked? I have I guess probably a life-size version of Yoda sitting behind me in my office here in my studio, next to Darth Vader. They were toys I bought for my children, quote unquote, air quotes, really for me. That once they lost interest, I quickly abducted Darth Vader and Yoda and brought them to my office so I could, in the darkness of night, play with them like a lost, forlorn 6-year-old longing for his youth, or 46-year-old longing for the good old days of his youth. So anyway, so the CARES Act has, again, this is the $2.2 trillion bill that was signed into law, I believe 2 weeks ago. And part of the CARES Act was a expansion of the federal unemployment benefit. That expansion was $600 per week for 4 months. So if you are receiving unemployment, you will get an additional $600 per week of benefit on top of the state benefit you're getting. So what does that mean? So let's, we'll do my farmer math here. 40 hours a week at $20 an hour would be $800. 40 hours a week at $15 an hour would be $600. So the federal government piece of the pie is basically the equivalent of $15 an hour of unemployment benefit per week. And that is on top of anything you are entitled to or eligible with the state you live in. And in Minnesota, i.e. flyover country where I'm doing the show, I believe you are eligible for up to $700 and some a week, up to $30 some an hour. You get half of that in state benefit. So assuming you work 40 hours a week, you could get up to, I believe, $17 an hour in state benefit and $15 an hour in federal benefit on top of that for 4 months. And then the state program, I believe, goes for 39 weeks. So that isn't horrible. I know that nobody really wants to be unemployed. Or I should rephrase that. A lot of people don't want to be unemployed. I do know a couple of people that do want to be unemployed. They know who they are, and they are completely content. If this were a benefit that went for 40 years, they would take it. So, but I know most people, this is not a fun time. It's not a funny thing. It is a time of, trauma really for, just, if you're the employee of a business that may not reopen and it's a business that you loved working for, if you're that business owner, knowing that some of the aid that's coming for you may not come in time. Business owners pay the unemployment insurance. They're not entitled to get, they're not eligible for unemployment. Boy, if I was, I might quit right now too. I might be one of those guys who just took found out if I could be on unemployment for 40 years, just retire. No, I'm just kidding. I love what I do. But I do need to take a little time off this weekend. So anyway, so the unemployment benefit is there. I encourage anyone who is out of work and can't find work. I don't know, there are people hiring right now. I don't know exactly the numbers and the whereabouts, but mostly it's a lot of logistics. Obviously, if you're manufacturing medical supplies, which I don't know if any of that happens in the United States anymore. We sure hope that some of that comes back here, because the supply chain disruption has really been exposed, how reliant we are on other places to get basic necessities like antibiotics, vitamins, surgical masks, the N95, and on and on and on, all kinds of medical supplies. And maybe that'll be my homework for the weekend. I said I was gonna take some time off. You know what? That just changed. I'm gonna see if I can figure out where all this stuff is being manufactured and what the impact of that is, just out of curiosity. So what does that have to do with real estate? Not a damn thing, but maybe it does. And if we end up bringing manufacturing back to the United States, maybe there'll be some of these malls can be repurposed to make medical supplies, because we know that the malls are hurting right now. There is a lot of pain, a lot of uncertainty with many retailers who have been compelled to shut down. And my heart goes out to you folks, because it's not a great place to be. So a few facts. I want to talk about this Paycheck Protection Program. Today is April 10th, the year of our Lord, 2020, and it is also Good Friday for the Christians out there, of which I am one of you. It's a time of reflection, a time of thoughtful contemplation. This is the day that Christ was crucified on the cross, and I don't want to screw this up. I actually did a video on this last year. How do I describe it? The reason that that Easter is different time or different dates every year, and maybe I'll do that tomorrow or Sunday. We'll talk about that, because I want to get my facts right. We can talk about Passover and Easter and a few other things too. So anyway, so it's Good Friday. I know a lot of the stock markets are closed. The market ended the week up. We have Easter on Sunday, Easter Sunday. It is a time of generally a time of celebration. It was the ascension of or the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and for Christians throughout the world, it generally was a time of great joy. This year, that will be tempered, I'm sure, with some sadness for a lot of folks, particularly in New York and other hot spots, Louisiana. And so on. Detroit, I believe, has got a lot of suffering and pain and death right now from the pandemic. So anyway, so on a lighter note, the Easter is also a time to try to capture the Easter Bunny. And my children, namely Nico, one of my children, has devised a plan to unmask the Easter Bunny. We have had the Easter Bunny come to our house generally, I believe the Easter Bunny has always been my brother-in-law, Adam. I believe he is the purveyor of the myth and the legend of Peter Cottontail. And he was almost exposed a couple years ago by Nico, because he was talking and Nico recognized the voice and had basically said, "Oh, hey," they call him Uncle Hat. "Hey, Uncle Hat." And I'm like, "Oh no, this is too soon." Kids exist in this semi-dreamlike state called theta until they're about 7 years old. And, and there's a real magic there. So, we've created these imposters, these myths, these falsehoods, I guess, but it's really fun to watch the kids. And I think we are, as I explained it last year, one of the neighbor kids was a little bit older, and he mentioned to the younger kids that the Easter Bunny was a fake and that he was actually their uncle. And I wasn't very happy about that. And I ended up taking a step back, and I sat the kid down. I said, there's a magic that exists in these myths, these legends, these the Santa Clauses, the tooth fairies, Easter Bunny. I think the holiday armadillo was the one that Ross and friends had. What else? Cupid, the leprechaun on St. Patrick's Day, and on and on and on. And there's a magic there that I really want to keep alive as long as possible. But anyway, I told the neighbor kid, I'm like, good kid, really good kid. And I sat him down. I said, there's the beauty of once you discover that, the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus are a bit of an urban legend. I said, the thing is, you lose that, but you also gain the fact that you can become that persona, that gift, and you get to become, in a way, the magic of Santa Claus and create this story, if you will, in the minds of children who really aren't, I don't believe, are hurt by having something to look forward to, like a Santa Claus or an Easter Bunny or that elf on the shelf. Oh my gosh, this year was awesome with the elf on the shelf. We'd never done it before. And this year, the kids they just bit down and sunk the hook on, and it was really, really fun. So anyway, there's a magic there. And I think that, we can all spread a little bit of that magic. So don't give up on the Easter Bunny. Don't give up on Santa Claus. Even if you might be your 30s or 40s or 50s, I think it's a real wonderful thing a tradition to keep going. Heck, even if you don't celebrate the Christian holidays. I mean, maybe you should. I'm not anti anybody's holiday, any religion, any tradition. I like them all. So anyway, also very. This is a good segue to another mythical creature. And this mythical creature is called the EIDL loan, which is a construct of the Small Business Administration. It was part of the CARES Act. And what the EIDL loan was it was a emergency loan that was supposed to be an advance of $10,000 of economic relief to businesses that are currently experiencing temporary difficulties. Economic injury disaster loan. All right, this is also a urban legend, because when this was as written, it was for any small business with less than 500 employees, including sole proprietorships, independent contractors, and self-employed persons. What this was it was an emergency advance, a direct advance of $10,000. Now they changed the verbiage on the SBA site to say up to $10,000. But when it came out, the small businesses were supposed to apply for an emergency loan, get advanced the $10,000 with really, like, it was on an honor system. And trust me, we saw the flaws in the program right up front. But they were supposed to get the $10,000 within 3 days, not business days. It said 3 days. You're supposed to get that $10,000. And when you applied for the loan, if you didn't qualify, you didn't have to pay the $10,000 back. Now, does anybody see the problem here? Yeah, it seems. Here's the other thing. The amount of funds allocated to this were $10 billion. It seems like a lot of money. $10 billion. I feel like Dr. Evil on Austin Powers. And the actually, I think he said 10 million, but the amount of funds available that were allocated this, the 10 billion, would have covered 1 million small businesses and sole proprietors. Well, here's the issue. It's estimated that there are between anywhere from 30 to 50 million small businesses and sole proprietors in the United States. So basically a fraction, 1 million people would have been eligible for this before the money ran out. So needless to say, nobody's got their money yet that I'm aware of. And I don't know if anyone will. They've changed it to say you will get up to $10,000, and it will be a limited to $1,000 per employee of effectively grant money. So we'll keep you posted on that, but it's been 2 weeks, and as far as I know, nobody's gotten that money. Now, the other program we've been monitoring, and there's, on the SBA.gov site, they've got a few things: SBA bridge loans, they've got SBA debt relief, and they've also got what's called the Paycheck Protection Program, which we have been talking about ad infinitum, or ad nauseum, depending on what your preferred path of beating a topic to death is. But the Paycheck Protection Program was basically a loan with a forgivable component. The loan became forgivable if you didn't lay off employees between the 8 weeks and when you got the money, starting when you got the loan, and 8 weeks after that. So the way they calculated the loan amount that was you could get for this Paycheck Protection Program is they took the average of the previous 12 months payroll. You divide by 12, so you've got your monthly average. So what's your average monthly payroll of the previous 12 months times 2.5? Those funds could be used for payroll expenses. They call them qualified expenses. Payroll expenses, rent or mortgage payments, if you're paying a mortgage on the building you own, utilities, and what else? Loan details and forgiveness. Is that it? Salaries, interest, rent, and utilities. There you go. Payroll costs. Yeah, I got it. So anyway, loan payments will be deferred for 6 months. Due to the high subscription, at least 75% of the forgiven amount must have been used for payroll. The loan has a maturity of 2 years and an interest rate of 1%. All right. So what do we got here? So we've got a program that is, seems really good, right? Like this seems like a really great program. The problem is that you had, I'm going to read some stats. So a week after the launch, the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program, which was last Friday, April 3rd, allocates $349 billion for rescue small businesses struggling because of the coronavirus. Many small business owners are still anxiously awaiting the funds they need to stay afloat. I think this is from Inc. Let's see, 70% of small business owners have applied for an emergency loan under the CARES Act Paycheck Protection Program. According to the National Federation of Independent Businesses, there are more than 30 million small businesses in the United States. This money is going to be gone so fast. More than 550,000 loans worth 141 billion have been approved under the PPP. But most applicants are still waiting. So if most are still waiting for funding and there's already 141 billion, ooh. Yeah. So, okay. So this is loans that have been approved. Nobody that I'm aware of has gotten the money yet. And I've been looking on the internet to see. Okay, why is a bumpy roll? Confusing guidance. Yeah, I get that. Surging demand for the loans. On Thursday, Democratic lawmakers blocked a bid to unanimously, holy cow, learn to talk, Scott, approve an additional $250 billion for the program, pushing for additional provisions that would allow people without an existing banking relationship to be eligible for the aid. Right now, many banks are restricting loans to existing customers. Yeah, they absolutely are. We talked about this yesterday. There are rules that have been put in place after 9/11 to limit banking fraud and money laundering for terroristic activities. So that is basically the bureaucracy is eating its own tail right now a little bit. So a little bit more about the program. The program will offer loans up to 10 million at a 1% interest rate to companies and nonprofits with fewer than 500 workers. So they can cover 2 months payroll. So today is the 10th of April. And this was actually, you could only apply for this the past week if you were a business. Today they opened it up to sole proprietorships. And I can't see how there's gonna be any money left, but let's see here. Some other interesting info. As of Tuesday afternoon of this week, JP Morgan had received 375,000 requests to apply for some 40 billion in PPP loans. Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan said the firm had received 250,000 applications since the PPP's launch on Friday at a rate of several thousand per hour. So, and then they said people can also apply for the Easter Bunny loan, the economic injury disaster loan program. And I'm sorry if I'm being cynical here, but I'm not sorry because that program was a disaster. And I know everyone's doing the best they can, but it still's a disaster. So there was an article in CBS News, and it's about Heather and Nathan Sanborn own Portland's Rising Tide Brewery, the 11th largest brewery in Maine by volume of beer produced. Well, it's Maine. I don't know if that means it's much, but anyway, they applied last Friday and got approval Sunday night. Wow. Our local bank released the money into our account days later on April 8th, and you're complaining. Well, here we go. Here's somebody. I guess I'm wrong. Somebody did get the money 2 days ago, which is about 200,000, which is 2.5 our average monthly payroll. But we're not happy. Why are we not happy? We had hoped to be able to choose. Okay, so a bank says you got to close the loan within 5 days. Okay, yeah, I get it. We had hoped to be able to choose a different 8-week period during which to spend our loan. We wanted to postpone the funding of the loan in order to have it line up with a later period, which we might have a more robust operations, but we were not given that opportunity based on the way the Small Business Administration and Treasury Department rolled out this program. The thing is, you have 8 weeks to use the money for qualified expenses, payroll, rent, or mortgage insurance, utilities. All right. So, I get it. They had 25 people working. They laid off all but 4 and hope to hire them back. The problem is that with all the shelter in place orders and how that, restaurants aren't allowed to open right now. So I get what they're saying. I mean, they said we plan to use it to pay employees. We still have and other authorized expenses like rent. then we don't know if we'll be able to bring the rest of the employees back by June 30th in order to qualify for loan forgiveness. Well, damn it. I hope they can bring their people back, but that's June 30th. That's April, May, June. That's 3 months. If we aren't through this in 3 months, they may never open their doors again. So I do have empathy for these people because the thing is with these funds, if they want them to be grant funds, they need to pay payroll expenses, right? So, and rent can be paid too, but rent can't be more than 25% of the amount that you're using. So kind of a raw deal. I get why they're upset. And it's too bad because with these folks, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other people who would take the money right now that are desperately in need of it. And if these guys could take it a month from now, that would, whatever. It's a mess. It is a mess. And the sheer volume here, it's a good idea in concept, but the execution, I don't know how anybody expects this to be anything but a disaster. And there's going to be a ton of fraud and a ton of people who are going to be pissed off because they didn't get the money. And we'll keep you updated. All we can do is report on it. I will keep the editorial comments coming. I will not keep them to a minimum. That is not why you're listening to this show. Remember, we are the Real Estate World Podcast. Is a show with courage. That means we take positions, and the more controversial, the better. No, I mean, we are purveyors of common sense, purveyors of common courtesy, and purveyors of nourishment for your brain. That we nourish the brains. And if you want to come on the show and just parrot back what you've heard from other people, you can do that too, but we're not going to listen. So anyway, the government. Okay. So I'm going to keep going with this because there's a lot to know about this Paycheck Protection Program. And, people say, well, Scott, why do you like business so much? I like business because business is made up of people, and I really like people. And the business owners, if they can't reopen, then they can't provide jobs. And if we can't provide jobs, then we can't provide income and livelihood. And if we don't have income and livelihood, we're going to have a real shit show. So that's why we keep talking about these things. And we talk about help for people too. If you notice, we started the show today with talking about unemployment insurance benefits that people can get. So anyway, the passage of the CARES Act has provided more than $350 billion. Now, this is how to avoid going to prison. This is on Forbes for your Paycheck Protection Program. The government has learned from the fraud relating to TARP, Katrina, and other federal programs. The PPP application form tries to close many of the loopholes people threaded in the past, and reviewers, auditors, inspectors general will know where to look. The signer of the certification is verifying the truth of the application. Okay, gotta say you're not a criminal. Primary focus for criminal prosecutions, this is number 3 on the list, will be on outright fraud, not incorrect but genuine misunderstandings of the PPP. Employees versus independent contractors. If you've got more than 500 independent contractors, you could push yourself out of this idea of being a small business. So keep that in mind. For most people, the difference. But one thing I saw, and I won't name the brokerage, but there was a brokerage that was a real estate brokerage that was talking about this Paycheck Protection Program in the context of realtor commissions. And they were of the belief that if a brokerage had, say, brokerage wide, and they had 100 agents, and they brought in an average, say, $2.5 million of commissions per month, they could technically they could put those realtor commissions on as monies that could be forgivable in this Paycheck protection program and get a loan for those monies. So I didn't quite get it. Granted, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I ain't the brightest bulb on the tree, and this picnic ain't got all its sandwiches, but it just seemed like that might be a stretch, because I could see if it was the brokerage split or the brokerage commission that the brokerage kept, and then the agent could maybe apply as an independent contractor and say that their business had been compromised by the slowdown. I don't know. Everyone's better talk to your CPA or your accountant or tax professional on this if you have any questions, because there is definitely some gray area. I've looked at the forms, I've looked at the applications, I looked at the requirements, and again, there's going to be some people cheating on this. But, a lot of people are going to be helped. I mean, I'm not anti the Paycheck Protection Program. Don't mistake me for, my juvenile comments or my editorializing. I'm not anti this. It's just there is a lot of problems, as you would expect with something that got rolled out basically overnight. Nothing in government moves this fast, so there's going to be problems. So, okay, so whatever. If you go to Forbes, there is an article from Bruce Brumberg. And he talks about, he has like 10 or 50 things that you have to make sure that you are just following the rules. And it sounds like they're really looking for cases of outright fraud. And so anyway, so that's that. What else? So one thing that I think is really important to go over today is, I know a lot of people have had their income reduced dramatically, and some people are not eligible for unemployment, and even people who may be eligible might be having trouble getting it. So you're looking at, this is April, May, June. We could be several months before things get back to normal. And when we say get back to normal, I don't mean normal as it used to be. Things are going to be different. So have a little sip of tea. One of the things that came to my attention was this idea of getting a mortgage forbearance. All right. And I've got a little chart here that I've done, and basically, you can't see this on the podcast, but homeowners, the way it works is with your mortgage, your homeowner, you usually pay a servicer, and that servicer pays a investor. All right. So the servicer gets a fee to collect the payment, to answer any questions, and the investor, many times it's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who own a lot of this mortgage debt. Well, right now, a lot of people are talking forbearance. And what is a forbearance? Well, basically, a forbearance is you delaying payment, basically saying, if I get a 4-month, let's say a 6-month forbearance, it means I don't have to make a payment for 6 months and I won't be foreclosed on. And, but a typical forbearance, what happens is at the end of that 6-month period, you basically owe the 6 months payment plus month 7. So if you said, okay, I would like a forbearance, April, May, June, July, August, September, October 1st, you would owe, by the 15th before the late fee strikes, you would owe 7 months of mortgage payment. Well, the reason for that is the servicers, many times their agreement is they have to send that payment into the investor, regardless of whether or not you've paid it. Well, it sounds like there is new guidance from the federal government, where they're telling the servicers, no, if someone has a forbearance agreement, you don't have to pay us, and that individual homeowner doesn't have to make all their payments at once. We are just going to tack them on to the end of the loan. So wiping the slate clean. And, you may have, if you're not making a payment on taxes or insurance, you may have some escrow funds you need to make up for. But in terms of the principal and interest payments, those would, that principal and any accrued interest would just be added to the loan amount. So this is something that's ongoing. I know many people have talked to their lender, and the response they got was either they didn't talk about what a forbearance really means, in which case they might get surprised if they got a 3 to 6 month forbearance and then suddenly they got to make all those payments, or their lender might have, their servicer, I should say, might have said, hey, we can do this, but then you're going to owe all these payments. And that could be the information they have. So I would just be very diligent on this. If you're going to get a forbearance, make sure whatever agreement you get in writing and you fully understand what's going on. Because for most folks, if you truly can't make your mortgage payments for the next 3 or 4 months, and then suddenly you're expected to make all of them in 1 month, that sounds like a game plan for disaster. So keep that in mind, and something to look into. What else we got? I want to talk just a little bit about the real estate market currently. There are less buyers, I believe, right now who are willing to go out. I believe that's factual. It's not anecdotal. And it is anecdotal, I guess, because I don't have the numbers, but I also believe this to be fact. But there's also less people who are putting their homes on the market. So I think what we still have right now is we have a market that is pretty balanced. In fact, I think it still leans in favor of the sellers by a fair margin. I know that anything that we see that's listed at market sells in like 2 days. And that's the consensus we're getting. So there's a lot of people asking, is this like 2008? And I keep saying, no, it's not like 2008. It's nothing like 2008 right now. 2008, we just, you woke up one day and you didn't just have like this market crash. You had inventory levels that were going up consistently for months, if not years, to the point where finally, like, the buyers just dropped off, and then you couldn't get credit. And I remember 2008 when we had an election cycle. So Bush was going out, Obama was coming in, and you had, I believe it was Bernanke back then. And who was the Treasury Secretary? Oh man, I keep seeing all the actors from all the movies that were going on back then. Anyway, they basically the credit faculties that you had at your disposal just stopped, and the Fed had to come in, intervene, and just inject again, like they're doing now in a lot of ways, a lot of capital into the markets. But it was for different reasons. Right now we don't have the underlying toxicity in the quality of the mortgage debt. Now, if values were to drop and people were to remain unemployed and this economy doesn't get started up in the next couple months, we could have a situation where, no amount of stimulus is going to be able to, there's no amount of stimulus that keeps this thing going long term. All right. So without us having like a debt bubble and mass inflation, all right, massive inflation, like Argentina style inflation. If you don't know what that is, or what was the Germany after World War II, they had a huge problem, like literally a wheelbarrow full of cash would not get you a loaf of bread. So just keep that in mind. We at some point, and we want to be sympathetic and we want to be healthy, but we got to get back to work and we got to get this economy going again at some point, or else the trouble really starts. Then it'll make 2008 look like a picnic. So, and I don't want that. And I hope nobody else wants that. There's opportunity in every kind of marketplace. I certainly don't want to go back to that, because that was scary in its own way. And having a global pandemic on top of a financial crisis, does not seem like fun. So anyway, with that, just so for those of you wondering about the housing market, yes, sales volumes are going to go down. There were some tightening of credit in the last couple of weeks that did knock a lot of previously qualified buyers out of the marketplace. There is higher risk of default right now. However, in the short term, with the amount of stimulus money that has been the $1,200 per adult, $500 per child, the unemployment insurance benefits that people are eligible for now will provide a lot of buoyancy for people, for households. I know there's a lot of strain on households right now because of the shelter in place orders and the fact kids are home, and and the fact that liquor stores are essential services. I had to get it in there. I had to say it again. I just wish they'd say we're trying to keep you people sedated so you don't riot. That is why we feel liquor is essential. It is sedation. It is a way to pacify the great unwashed masses. Since you can't watch your sports, we can't give you bread and circuses, so we're going to give you booze. All right, I'm done. Not really. But anyway, so with that, I'm not going to read to you today, although I did pick up a really good book, one that was recommended to me, The Power of Positive Thinking. And this is by a gentleman by the name of Norman Vincent Peale. He is been called the greatest inspirational. This book's been called the greatest inspirational bestseller of our time. I can't believe I haven't read it yet. I'm excited. This is one I'm going to start reading today. Hopefully, this will keep me positive. I hope you all do stay positive. This is positivity and feeding gratitude to your brain, immune boosting foods to your body, and getting some exercise, some sunlight are going to serve you well, no matter what the health crisis is, whether it's this one, the next one, or the one after that. Keep that in mind. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone has a great weekend. If you celebrate Easter, things are going to get kind of crazy at my house. There might be a unmasking of the Easter Bunny. Nico has thrown down the gauntlet, and we're going to find out if that's going to happen. I am waiting with bated breath for that. And with that, I would like to wish you guys all a great weekend, and I will be back here Saturday. I am going to do a special Easter show on Sunday as well. So we're going to keep this going this week. So I really do appreciate everyone tuning in, and be careful out there. We'll see you out there. Bye-bye.